Hi and welcome to another karting video. We've now finally reached the last round of the Sprint 60 Championship for the 2021 season. The venue is Bayford Meadows, just down the road from the Club 100 headquarters in Sittingbourne. This is another one of the tracks that we've already visited this season, and because of the issues surrounding the pandemic and Buckmore Park, which normally is used for the pre-season test, we actually did the pre-season testing here at Bayford. So in fact it's the third time we've been to the track. I did struggle a bit at the first round we had here earlier on in the year, particularly in the technical middle section of the track, the bit that we're actually coming up to now with the two hairpins. So I was hoping to at least try and improve on that. As you can see on the camera, despite the weather forecast saying it was supposed to be dry all day, we had a bit of a shower during our practice and qualifying session. And although I was actually quite comfortable with these conditions, you can see, I think, as we go around during practice, there's a few karts that have spun off due to it being slightly slippery. But it seemed to be fine for me, which was quite good, following on from the reasonable, comfortable experience I'd had in the damp lid. But unfortunately, this didn't really translate into a decent qualifying time yet again. I think part of the problem was, as the track dried, I didn't really pick the pace up sufficiently. I was too cautious, and secondly, again, a similar experience to what I've had in some of the other qualifying sessions. I just caught traffic, and I wasn't decisive enough when that happened. I think one thing I definitely need to work on is thinking about maybe trying to look for a gap in traffic during the practice session, and maybe running a couple of slow laps to find myself a gap, so then when I get to qualifying I'm either with faster karts, so I can use them to hopefully help me improve my lap time, but avoiding gaggles of slower karts where I'm basically ruining my laps. So all of that means I ended up somewhat lowly 32nd on the grid, which was a bit disappointing, but it is what it is. The other thing to note is, due to the fact we had quite heavy cloud cover, which again you can see here, the GPS in my GoPro just was really patchy. The data's completely unusable. The track map barely recognisable as being Bayford Meadows. So for practice, quali, video and race one, there's no GPS, there's no data. Normal service is resumed for race 2. So race 1. One area I've definitely struggled with this season are race starts, either not being close enough to the kart in front of me at the actual start, or not making moves in the first couple of laps when it's much easier to make up places because the field hasn't started to spread out, and quite often people make mistakes or are trying to be overly heroic on lap 1. So this time, get a reasonably even start behind Tim Randall. I'm going around the outside of turn 1. Don't really have a choice. There's no space in the inside. I'm reasonably calm coming through turn 2 into turn 3, but then it all kind of starts to kick off. There were a couple of karts off on the inside there. Again, I'm just trying to find a bit of space, really, a little bit of contact. Just trying to survive. Now we're coming into the kind of technical middle section. I'm slightly out of, not in the right place on the track, which kind of slows me up, but thankfully everyone else in front of me is still squabbling, fighting, pushing and shoving each other, so I managed to close up to the pack. And I'm still behind Tim, so reasonably alright here. So I'm thinking about lining him up for a move, but someone comes flying down the inside and actually bashes him out of my way, which is quite convenient. The guy who perpetrated that crime, then goes wide in turn 1. I'm on the inside of him, reasonably overlapping, got the inside in turn 2, and then again in turn 3, and there's really nowhere he can go, so I'm past, which is not bad at all. At this point, I think I'm 26th, so I've made up quite a lot of places, but sadly is when it starts to go wrong. So some debris on the track, which kind of puts me offline, and then I'm coming into the turn onto the back straight. I'm really aggressive, take a lot of curb, and I think the tyres were cold. There just wasn't enough grip, and you can see there I'm full opposite lock, and I've spun. Not really a lot I could have done other than not take a crappy line. Then I get hit by 41. That's quite a hard hit. Even with the brakes on, I still went backwards. I think I shout some particularly fruity language at that point, and then just get back on with it. I think I'm either last or the penultimate place in the race or something, but obviously I'm a fair way away from any of the carts in front of me, and pretty annoyed with myself. Well, at this point I thought someone had tagged me because there were obviously a lot of carts close by, but luckily I didn't go off in a rage after the race accusing anyone of hitting me or anything like that, because it turns out nobody hit me. It was my own stupid fault. Too aggressive on the curbs, probably when the tyres weren't hot enough and there just wasn't enough grip. You think you're unweighting one of the tyres over the curb, the other one just couldn't deal with the combination of steering and throttle at the same time. So it's my own stupid fault. So it's just a long way back at this point. But I was determined to at least try and make up some places. I don't really know at this point the relative pace from me to people in front, but yeah, definitely didn't want to finish there. It was just annoying, having made a good start, which, as I said previously, is one of the things I struggled with, to then throw it away with basically a dick move by myself. It was just annoying. So the guy in front is almost the entire length of the straight in front of me, so it's a long way back. But I was sufficiently annoyed that I thought, right, I'm going to try my hardest here to make up places. I'm not finishing where I am now. And to be fair, at this point in time, I did actually think I was dead last. I think the lap chart says I wasn't, but yeah, I'm not finishing here. Just not. So yeah, just try to get my head down, run some decent laps, and try and close that gap. But at this point, clearly haven't got a huge amount of encouragement because the guy appears to be a long way in front of me. So coming to the end of another lap, let's have a look. Is he getting much closer? I guess so. He's still kind of a speck, but we jump forward now to actually have a bit of action. So I think at this point I'm going to be lapped. Yes, and I think that's Daniel Brewer, who was a double winner at Bayford Meadows and managed to win the 2021 championship. So, not the end of the world being passed by someone like that. But you can see Daniel's pretty much vanishing. But the guy in front of me is closer than he was when we were last in the car. So I think we've skipped forward about. It might even be as many as 10 laps or something. It's quite a way into the race by this point, but I am still closing up, which is good. So as long as I can get through traffic, don't get held up by traffic, I should be okay. And now we jump forward again, and yes, finally, people in front of me, much closer. So there are two carts. The guy in the blue helmet is the one I'm actually racing. I'm not sure if the guy in front of him he's racing or whether he's maybe even a laps runner, I'm not sure. But anyway, they're close together and they're going to start holding each other up, which is going to work in my favour. But you can see I'm definitely closing quite quickly now, which is good. So down the front straight. So yeah, they're kind of fighting a bit. The guy let him through, and then he goes massively wide through turn 1 and then loses all of the ground, which he kind of gained by being on through. I'm now definitely closing in. You can see on the brakes much quicker, and I don't know what's going on, but these guys, even if they're not battling, they're certainly not helping each other. They're slowing each other down by doing this. That's a really quite awful line through that section, which will explain something I'm going to talk about in a little bit. So again, come through the last few set of corners. This is all flat out, by the way, at this point. Literally flat until you come into the final corner. Again, closing up, coming down the start finish straight. They're definitely not breaking away. I'm closing up on them. You can see a bit loose there through turn 1. I'm really gaining. Through 2, 3. I love that with this sequence of bends actually. 2 and 3 is really nice. So camera's coming around because Steve Lindley is just coming up behind us, which is ideal because actually what Steve does is makes a massive gap for me to drive straight through. There you go. That guy's just let Steve through and I've just driven straight through the massive hole he's left me. After the race, Steve and I had a quick chat. He said, your line through this corner here, literally this corner here, into the entrance of the boot, he said it's completely wrong. What you need to do is sacrifice speed, be much tighter, and then that will help you in the corners after that. Which was really nice of him to say. He didn't have to say anything to me, so that was nice. And will be very useful in race 2. No spoilers. So I finished 32nd there, where I'd started. So coming into race 2, there was a mix-up on the grid, and I had to take the last car on the grid, which actually turned out to be the car that Jack O'Neill had in the preceding lightweight race that he'd won. So I wasn't too unhappy. In fact, when I was asked, did I want that last car? And if you've been paying attention, you'll know he just won the last race. I'm like, yeah, I'll take that car. I have no problem with that. So coming to the start again, another pretty even start, which is good. We make it through turn 1 okay. Again, I'm kind of on the outside, but I'm cool with that. You can kind of make it through the outside. Turn 1 is not too bad. Move towards the inside a bit. But then there's quite a bit of congestion, so I move to the outside, contact. And then we have a car that spun around Simon Lish facing the wrong direction, and a bit more contact as well for good measure, so it's really quite messy at this point. But the good thing is, the pack's not got away from me. I'm still, close, halfway through the first lap, which is good. And I think we made up a few places to boot as well because of all the various shoving and pushing and spinning that happened at that point. And again, this is the reason why making moves early is easy, because people are fighting, they're much closer, and there's always possibly opportunities. So coming towards the end of the lap, I'm closing up on this massive pack in front of me. All good. Lap 1 down, I've survived. And it's looking like if I can hang on to these guys, there's going to be chances. So at this point, I'm feeling quite positive. Through T2, T3, again, all good. Massive group of cars here. This is all clearly not going to go through this tight section without some issues. We've got a bit of contact here and there. It's hugely congested. It's almost 4 wide at one point. Whoever that is clearly unhappy about something, but to be fair, we're all as much to blame as each other. We're trying to go 4 wide in some of these parts of the track, and clearly it's not going to work. Right, so coming through the boot section, we've lost a bit of ground on that massive gag in front, but even so, there's still possibly opportunities here. And the car I've got, whether it's psychologically strong, because in my mind it's Jack O'Neill won a race in this car, or whether it fundamentally was strong, I don't know, but it seems pretty quick. So coming through turn 1, reasonable line through there, into the lovely bit of the track, through T2 into T3. These two guys are fighting, bit of contact, they fundamentally slow each other down. The guy in the red slow off the corner, so I'm thinking there's a chance here. I dive down the inside, and I guess that was way too optimistic. I wasn't really far enough alongside, he turned in on me and just pushed me into a spin. He survived it, I didn't. Unfortunately, Tim Randall unfortunately hit me, no fault of his obviously, so he was held up as well, so not ideal. But we've done it again, good start, and then my own enthusiasm, I've screwed it up. If I'd been a lot more patient, I'm sure there would have been another chance to get past the guy in front. You know, the car I had fundamentally seemed pretty strong, so I've got nothing to blame but myself, really. But at least this time, there's not such a massive gap to the people in front, so we're back on a recovery drive again for the second time today, chasing people down because of having that was only a half spin, but a spin nonetheless, early on in the race. So Tim, he's not way out in front of me, and it definitely looks like I'm keeping pace and or closing up. So let's see what we can do. Right, coming through the flat out section. Looks pretty even there, doesn't look like I'm gaining hugely or losing much. In fact, I'd say it looks pretty even at the moment, if I'm honest. I think that definitely looks like I'm closing up there through that kind of T2, T3 section, and maybe gaining a bit on the brakes as well through the hairpin. There's a yellow flag. Oh, so Simon, bless him, who'd spun on lap 1. He was the guy that I think was facing the wrong way in turn 2. Has been spun around again. It looks like maybe he's actually having a worse race 2 than I am. And Simon and I have been kind of reasonably closely matched throughout the season. A couple of races, he's definitely got better at me. Lead being one, definitely capitalised on the conditions better than I did. But in general, we're kind of reasonably close on pace. So that's a bit unfortunate for him. But it's a place gained nonetheless. I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. So Tim looks like he's being held up by this guy in front. You can see I'm definitely gaining now. I think it's just a matter of time, particularly the longer this guy holds Tim up, the more chance I've got. He's now got through on the inside, coming through the second hairpin, coming onto the back straight. You can see I'm way quicker than the chap in front. And he's probably gone a little bit too hot into that boot section, the exact thing that Steve Lindley told me not to do. You can see I'm gaining so much time on him through there because I'm on the throttle much longer through the final sequence of bends onto the main straight. Again, my car does look pretty good. Really closing up through T1. He's gone wide. And he's not really got much of a chance here because I've got the inside line through 2, kind of block pass a bit through 3, and by then it's pretty much over and done with. Right, so through the hairpin, now I can actually close in on Tim. There's no one else around us. He's right in my sights now. Be interested to see what his pace is in sort of clear air. He was obviously being held up by that guy previously, so has he got a bit of pace or not? Looking through this section, certainly in comparison to me, no. I'd say definitely through those fast sweeping bends at the end of the lap, I've definitely got the measure of him. So down the straight into T1, it's a bit wide there. Again, I'm closing. Through 2 and 3, definitely quicker there. So what are we going to do? Yes, let's try and lunge down into the hairpin again because we didn't learn our lesson the first time we tried that. Luckily, Tim is slightly less aggressive in terms of turning in than the other guy. But he's wide coming out onto the back straight. I keep that tight line, the thing Steve Lindley told me to do, and that's an easy move. You know, I've got a much better line out of that corner. I'm on the throttle earlier. I've got much better drive, and it's pretty easy to get past. And I think also helped by the fact that it looks like my car is just a bit quicker. So on to the next car. Again, it looks pretty much like through this sequence, through the T2 and T3 sequence, it looks like I'm gaining on this guy pretty quickly. So I think it will be a case of when I'm going to catch him, not if. To get a pretty good exit onto the back straight. Again, coming into this critical boot section. So this is kind of braking into this corner, keeping it tight, and then here it's then full on the gas pretty much. If you get the line right, flat out through this corner. I think I'll take a little bit of a feather the throttle a little bit through this corner, just because I don't want to be on that geo block, because it's definitely going to slow me down, and it's track limits, so I'm being careful, and I just don't quite have the confidence to go flat through that corner. But it doesn't seem to be much of a, you know, it doesn't seem to be losing me too much ground. So again, I'm gaining through 2 and 3, and I think I'm going to gain again, braking into the hairpin. Although I'm a little wide on the exit there, that's not ideal. But yeah, we're definitely gaining, and the lap times are kind of relatively consistent, hovering in the low 57s. I mean, that's not great though, in comparison to the front guys who managed to dip into the 54s. Still work to be done. Although, to be honest, the mid-pack isn't massively quicker, but certainly the front runners are much quicker. So I've now at this point, lap 10, set my fastest lap up to that point, and I am closing down. As I said previously, through 2 and 3, gaining massively. So through the hairpins again, and I think I said at the start, this was a section of track I was struggling last time we visited Bayford. I think it was much better this time, although I've not compared the times. And anyway, the conditions are not comparable. It was summer when we were here previously, and now this is November, and you can see it's dark. The floodlights are on, the temperature's clearly lower. Right, so through the fast sections, yeah, I'm really gaining here. Probably even on the brakes through the last corner, but onto the main straight, I'm gaining quite considerably. Try and take a slightly narrower line through T1, a little bit of contact there. But you can see Daniel's looking around. He knows I'm there, which is good. I mean, you know, he knows I'm there. He's probably expecting something. So again, he tried down the inside into the hairpin, and this time, as I said, he's been looking around. He knows I'm coming, and he kind of concedes the place and lets me through, which is good. So, you know, despite the dramas, I've actually managed to catch up to some people, pass them, but obviously at this point now, the field spread is huge. You know, we're 12 laps in. The quick guys I was close to on lap 1 or lap 2 or whatever it was when I made my slightly enthusiastic lunge have gone. Right, so skipping ahead now, lap 17. I've been just trying to get my head down and put in some strong lap times, or at least consistent lap times. You know, to see if I can maybe catch some other people. I honestly don't know. How realistic that was at this point, but certainly I was going to try. So again, being lapped at this point, although later than I was lapped in race 1, but still, it is what it is. I think that's Dickie Allen that's actually just gone past me, who is a super heavyweight, which is quite sobering. I think he came second overall in the race. Right, coming down the main straight, I'm now going to employ the famous human DRS. I don't honestly know how much difference it makes. I mean, I'm tall, right, so I'm going to be a bit of an aero brick. So maybe it does help, but on the other hand, I didn't want to put my head down too long and drift off the track. So anyway, but there you go, DRS enabled. Okay, so we jump forward to lap 20 now. So about 10 laps to go. You can see it's getting quite dark, really. GoPro is not liking the lights at all. They're strobing quite badly. Obviously it doesn't look like that when you're in the car. It's just solid light, not flashing. So, come through T1. I'm in the process of being lapped by a number of people. Just trying to minimise any time loss because of that. I'm not actually aware, I think I'm not really aware that at the moment that there's anyone near me. But as it turns out there is. So, another guy coming past. I mean, I've spoken about this before. I could defend much harder. It is, the faster drivers. It's up to the faster driver to get past anyone, a slower driver, but on the other hand, the last thing I want to do is, you've got people battling for places right at the front. The last thing I want to do is screw up someone's race or gift somebody a place just because I blocked someone unnecessarily. I am racing other people. I'm not completely on my own. I'm not totally isolated. But sometimes it is difficult to tell. But anyway, so a bit more lappery. I think that's about third, fourth, and fifth in the race or something at that point. But as hard as you try, if you're offline, if you're not where you need to be on the track, your lap time is going to be compromised. It's just the reality of it. And I think that's one of the things definitely I need to work on for next season. Is just if I can just up my pace by a second and a half a lap or something, which isn't a huge amount, I'm less likely to be lapped. And also, it goes without saying, going to be closer to the people in front of me. Right, skipping forward again, more lappery, and you can see I've had a slow lap there, 58.1 in comparison with the previous lap, which are either low 50s, high 56, low 57, so I've lost quite a bit of time, and that is going to cause me a bit of a problem in there. But you can see there's a big gaggle of carts that have come past me. There are 4 or 5 carts in front. So now this is Simon. So Simon's recovered from 2 spins to catch me up and just gone past me really easily into the boot section because I took a wide line, the very thing I was told not to do. But you can see he hasn't immediately broken away from me, and I was just so bloody minded at this point. I thought, you're not going to stay in front of me. I'm going to get back past you. And a sort of little third of a lap running into this, he didn't break away. Meant I thought, right, it's possible. And again through 2 and 3, much stronger. Coming into the hairpin, we've got Tim Williams that's just gone past, and Tim actually blocked Simon a bit there. So I'm going to try and use it to my advantage. But Simon's kind of staying around the outside. I'll give him his credit. He's not letting it be, not make it easy for me. But then I've got the inside line into that boot section. You can see the amount of steering lock he's put in. He's massively understeered because he's completely on the wrong line. So I did the very thing that Steve told me to do: sacrifice speed into there, and it made a huge difference. So here we go, another lap down, coming through T1, and you might have noticed that Tim Randall has appeared again behind me. So having passed him, I don't know when it was, laps and laps ago, he's caught back up again. So clearly, my pay either being lapped, they just did a better job than me, and you know, sometimes that happens. If you're the first guy for the fast traffic to come to, obviously if you let them through and you slow yourself down, it means the people behind you gain time. You know, and maybe they just were caught by them in a different part of the track. Maybe they were caught in the straight or something, which meant they didn't lose too much time if you got caught in the corners. Yeah, it's one of those things. But yeah, you know, good for him that he's managed to make that time back up over the course of all those laps. So into turn 2, turn 3 again. I mean, the last lap wasn't horrendous. You know, it was 56.7, which is getting towards my quicker laps during this race. But again, I'm being lapped by someone, which is going to compromise a bit. You can see exit out, bend onto the back straight wasn't great, and another faster car coming through. I'm just going to try and get my head down again and stabilise my lap times and hopefully not get more lap traffic. Right, coming through, I think lap 30s is the last or the penultimate lap of the race. Through turn 1, we're looking behind us now, and Tim is going to appear coming into turn 2. Here he comes, down the inside of turn 2, into turn 3. Now at this point, he waves me past, which I'm not really sure why. There was definitely no contact in the... Unless there was a bit of bump draft, I don't know. I mean, I can't honestly remember. It didn't look like it from the camera, but the angle's not perfect. So maybe he did bump me in 2, and that's why he let me back past. I don't know. I can't remember, to be honest, but I'm not going to complain. I've got the place back. Nothing really more to say, but very gentlemanly of him to do that. So, I think this is the penultimate lap. I think lap 32 was actually the final lap. Coming into the final round of the season, I was obviously hoping to finish strongly. That would be a nice thing to do. Ultimately, this race, I end up making up 1 place. So I started 32nd, I finished 31st, from being dead last, I think, on lap 2 or something. In both races I had good starts and made up quite a few places. You know, I was in the mid-20s in both these races after lap 2 or lap 3. And I'm sure I would have, maybe lost a few places, but I think I definitely could have finished in the top 30 in both these races, which would have been reasonably strong. So it's just frustrating that I put myself in those positions. Completely my fault in both cases. One was just a pure driving mistake on cold tyres. The second was just a massively over-ambitious move at that point. But I did drive strongly, having made those mistakes. I didn't let my head drop. I just tried to chase people down and make places, and I was able to do that, which was good. But it would have been much easier and better to have been chasing someone from a decent position rather than chasing people from the back of the pack. But still, I probably enjoyed the race, although the amount of effort I put in wasn't really reflected in the finishing position. But there we go. So thank you for watching, and there'll be more videos coming about the season, and then some more coming hopefully in 2022.